and I am pleased to sit there and welcome Jason joining us here today on the Connection stream. This is a man who commanded the 17th Training Group, leading a team of 3,500 and managing a budget over 40 million while he was in the United States Air Force. He has been in the rooms of the Pentagon where the most critical strategic decisions have been made. But looking at him today, he is not just a retired officer. He has thrived in his transition and his growth. He is now the Director of Learning, Development, Culture, and Belonging at ISS Facility Services. He has successfully bridged the gap in the world of ISR and cyber transformation to the heart of human connection and organizational health in the corporate world. And he has very recently published his book, Lines in a Parking Lot, Leadership Lessons Fueled by Positivity, Humility, and Turning the Right Way. Jason is an absolute powerhouse and fantastic to sit there and speak with. Jason, it's good to see you again. Welcome to Seven Eagles Connections cohort. We greatly appreciate it. How's your day? Oh, and you got the right sweatshirt on. I like this. I like this a lot.
I sure do.
All righty. Well, Jason, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I say no. I appreciate it. I don't know that all of that stuff that you said was all accurate. I appreciate it, but I'm ready to jump in today and share what I can to help everybody out.
Fantastic. We definitely appreciate your time here today. And the chat's already popping off. I do like it. I like it a lot. So, Jason, like I told you, I kind of lead out, when we first met earlier this week, is give us your origin story. What led you into joining the United States Air Force as a career?
Yeah, so I was, when I first joined the Air Force, I enlisted, not really having any idea what I wanted to do next. And then just really stayed in. I loved it. I loved being able to just continue to take care of people and learn new things. And the opportunities that the Air Force gave me are not like, if I look back at all the opportunities that were given to my friends, it's that didn't join the military or the Air Force. It's just a great place to be, and I loved my time in.
It's a lot of Air Force people here. They definitely do respect that. I do want to talk about the one thing that caught my attention on your profile is you spent time at AT&T through the SecDef Executive Fellows Program. What is that program, and what was one of the culture shocks that you experienced while you were in that program?
Yeah, so it's on the officer side, when you get an opportunity to go do your education for my senior service school. Instead of going to a war college, they sent me to be a Secretary of Defense Executive Fellow. And so I got to go to AT&T and spend a year not wearing the uniform and just learning what it's like to live the corporate life and learning how corporate leadership operates. And, as we were prepping for this, I will tell you the one thing that I learned from that experience compared to the military that I think helped me prepare as I moved back into the corporate world after retirement was when you get to AT&T or you get to corporate life, it's not about the same thing as the Air Force, right? You get a budget and you try to spend, and then you try to spend everybody else's money so that you can get all the fallout money at the end of the year. In the corporate life, just because I have a budget doesn't mean I should spend it all. And making sure that I'm spending it on the right things and not just trying to exhaust the entire budget. So those were some of the big things that I learned, and just the way, I think I've heard over my career many times where as you get ready to transition out, the corporate world or industry is not going to love you as much as the military does. And I'll tell you, that's absolutely the farthest thing from the truth. Once you get to the industry or corporate world and doing what you want to do next, they will value the things that you bring, the skills that you bring, your ability to operate at a very high level that just when they're hiring somebody without the experience that you have doesn't always translate as well as what you bring.
Let's talk about that and, your role at ISS now. So definitely that fellowship did help you, give you that leg up and understanding of, well, I have a dollar. I don't need to spend the dollar. I could use that dollar for another point in time versus anybody who works inside, and we have a few procurement people, like we have to spend, we're on the budget and everything like that. Do you feel like that really did give you the leg up to sit there and get into ISS and really kind of like jumpstart your civilian career, or was it just one of the Lego blocks that got you in that position?
So what got me out? I know there's probably a question coming later about networking, and
Yep.
the myths on networking. I will tell you, um, the opportunity that I got at ISS was because of my opportunity that I spent in the year that I spent at AT&T. Right, somebody that I networked with, that became a mentor, became a friend. She left AT&T, went to ISS, and as I stayed in touch with her, I committed to staying in touch with her. And as I got ready to retire, she just happened to have a job in a position that was available that she could bring me into.
And the biggest thing, guys, that I'm the learning and development nerd here at Seven Eagle Group. I'm going to tell you right now, springboarding yourself into a director's role in learning and development and really having sort of that culture aspect and belonging, really, really, really challenging to sit there and do it. And that's the power of that networking right there. Yes, one of my 20-year veterans just sat there and just chimed up. What's networking? We don't talk about that here. Just kidding, just kidding. So I do want to sit there and talk about it because it is interesting when you and I have kind of a similar career track. Going from ISR intelligence and really kind of disseminating information, going into human resources, culture and belonging, learning and development. What drew you to that? What was the thing that sat there and said, "This is my jam"?
People. I think any job I've ever had or positions I've ever had, for me, it's always about people, and doing the things that I could to connect them to what they wanted to do next, where they wanted to go next, helping them be successful, helping them thrive. And I think that my network and those that I have connected with saw that. And so when I wanted to make the transition and jump into more of the HR world, um, I wasn't just a unknown, right? People knew what my values were, what I was committed to, what I wanted to do next, and it made that transition much more easier.
That's the biggest thing is people. And there clearly was that there. I do want to pivot a little bit, and I do want to, talk about the book and kind of expose the guys here. And I did just drop a link to the Amazon landing page for the book. Tell us about it. I'm actually waiting for Amazon to knock on my door with my copy here momentarily. But go ahead and tell us about the book. What inspired you to write it?
So, what inspired me, I would have never written a book. I was not interested in writing a book. And, some people that I have worked with over the course of my career told me that, hey, you should write a book and share the things that you believe in, the things that you value as a leader, because more need to know it. And I was like, nah, I don't know. I still wasn't convinced to do it. And then late in my career, there was just some things that happened that watching others lead, probably not the way that I would lead. I was like, I got to write a book. If I can share some of the things that I've learned over my career that can help others navigate the good and the bad, then let me do that. And it's written in a way that is very short, to the point, lesson focused. I am not like a let me pull out 190 page book that's takes you 30 minutes to read each chapter. And that was not the intent of it, but I wanted to be able to share very short tidbits of things that could potentially help somebody else.
I love it. And we in military service, we often lead through grit and stoicism versus you don't see, at least from my background and some others, a lot of positivity. And there is a lot of positivity that's inside the book. Why do you find that as more important to have than some of the data, some of the other things in the corporate boardroom, having that positivity versus just being a data nerd and just trying to solve for a solution to the board?
So I think that those can be both, right? I think you can solve for a solution. I think that you can make progress and make change, and you can do it in a positive way. I have just been in way too many rooms or organizations where there's just not a lot of positivity. And what I can tell you is that I made the transition from the military into the corporate world. Like, in the meetings that we have, on the teams that we have, nobody wants to be around somebody that's negative. Nobody wants to be around somebody that's going to bring the room down or consistently say, we can't do that. The answer is no. What I can tell you is what I have watched is the most effective leaders in my company are the ones that are, what can we do to get to yes? How can we make this happen? How can we take care of the organization and our clients, the mission, while we also focus on our placemakers? We call them placemakers, our people. We will tell you that we are a people company, and I think that's important, right? When I left the military, I wanted to make sure that I joined an organization that was aligned with my values, that was aligned with what I wanted to do, and it was aligned with the way I approach things, which is from a positive way.
I love it. I love it. I do want to kind of walk into it because I do have a few people here. Obviously, you've already spoken with Megan. There's others that are interested in the learning and development career. Walk us through, what is your day in the life? What do you do as a director for learning and development, and what does that job look like?
So I have two roles, right? I have one of the culture and belonging, and then I have another team that's learning and development. For my learning and development team in particular, right now we have a huge opportunity to make a difference across our company that is just non-existent. And so, when I left the Air Force, I would say that we do training pretty well, right? Like, you don't ever go through very many different parts of your career where you're not being trained or educated on your next job, on your next promotion, what it means to go from an airman to an NCO to a senior NCO, or the different officer levels. And and so my team, I have one person on my team that's solely focused on management fundamentals, right? Growing out of management fundamentals for our business. Like, our managers, we might hire brand new managers into the organization who have never led anyone at all, ever. And I was just in Philadelphia last week, and I watched this at one of our client sites, watching how one of the new managers was speaking to her team, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is not okay. So, like, I have somebody on my team that's directly focused on how do we grow that. I have somebody else that on my team that's focused on how do we do certification programs, right, for leaders in critical jobs so that they get those jobs and they can then build out those programs. I have others on my team that are responsible for the digital content creation or the compliance training that we have to maintain across North America. And so on our team, we have a lot of different folks that are have different skills. Every skill is required. Like, it's not just, hey, I got to have a deep understanding of how to create content. I have somebody on my team who is just a project manager, right, who understands learning and development, but isn't going to be able to get in there and create digital content. But she is amazing at helping us project manage the programs to a point where we can get to a good place and lead our company to success.
There's so many different fields that go into learning and development. And you said it right there. Helping people is like the 400, like the thing that we want to see within it. And there's a lot of people that kind of get sort of nervous around learning and development because you are sitting there looking at the social responsibility and the DNI, of it. And the one thing I know that there's going to be a couple of people that roll their eyes to this. Last week we were doing an exercise on talking about how to manage up. So your example, you had a brand new manager at the site in Philadelphia, really didn't have like the real soft skills. These guys were sitting there going through a process of how to give someone like that feedback right then and there in the moment without crossing that line. Why do you think, in your personal opinion, is the U.S. military some of the best training grounds for social responsibility and DNI, even though we don't really realize it?
So actually, I would love to just back up on before I get to that one. I would love to
Okay.
talk about something else that you just said, which is managing up. I think as I look across our company, we have a lot of veterans in a lot of different roles, and we actually have quite a handful of veterans that are in the HR space in our company in different roles. And the ability to manage up is so critical. Like I have conversations with my boss who sits in the C-suite, and there's times where I have to be like, I'm not sure if you want to hear this or not, but I don't know that you're organized the right way to be able to have the success that you want to have. Or, and being willing to just have hard conversations with your boss that a lot of people are not. I have conversations with my boss about my peers and who I think is doing a good job and who I think needs some more development on how to be a leader. And I think those are the things that once you want the skills that you all will bring when you go into your company is like you have a lot of you have the experience with doing some of that. And I think it's so critical to help your boss be successful when you can be honest.
Yeah, definitely was. Megan, go ahead.
Hi, Jason.
Hello.
So I have lots of questions, but I'll just narrow it down to a few. I like how you brought up that managing upwards. I feel like on the enlisted side of the house in the military, when you get into the higher echelons, you have to learn how to manage up because you have these officers, especially new ones. I worked in aircraft maintenance. Like, you got to take them under your wing and you got to show them and grow them and develop them. So it makes me think of soft skills. So translating that to the civilian side, is there a specific soft skill that you really saw a return on investment in the civilian sector that you learned from the military?
Yeah. Being able to recognize talent and advocate for that talent within the company. And I think that that is something that like we have to do in the military, right? Like you got to be able to recognize kind of who your A team players are and be able to put them into positions to help the organization. But you also have to skill up and help those that are maybe not at the same level. I think as I'll be honest with you, right? Like I might have had some questions that might got asked to me before I did this to prep, and I didn't know. I was like, what would be a soft like what would be my like the best soft skill that I think I've brought to this organization. So I actually asked people on my team this question because I felt like it was important to not just me try to make it up, but like, hey, what is it? And I will tell you, the L&D team that I inherited was a complete mess. And it last August, and I took it over. And I think part of it was there was no trust. None of them were being advocated for. None of them were being pushed to like do the next thing. And so the ability to come in and be honest, take a look and say, okay, who are the people on the team that have a ton of potential? And then what can I do to help put them in front of my boss so that my boss understands what they're doing? And then also um, giving them hard feedback. Like I had to have some very hard feedback with my team, and one time I'll be honest, right? One person I told him I was like, I just need you to stop talking in meetings. Like I just need you to listen to everybody else on the team. You are the first person to talk, and you shut everybody else up. The second person, I just told her I was like, I need you to be a good teammate. You're not a good teammate. And what I found was in the civilian area, like once I created um, that trust with them, they had never been told this before.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that those are all of the skills that you can bring. There's a million more, but I think those are some of the big ones. Is just your ability to just have an honest conversation with your team about up and down of what's going well, and then show that you're willing to advocate for them and you're not willing to just do things for myself. Like I've told my team, like I've had a career. My job is to lead this team now, but my job is also to help you all continue to progress in the company.
Yeah, that's truth. There's so much honesty in that, and that makes them have trust in you more so than a person that's just going to sit here and sugarcoat each and every aspect of things. So before I call on you, Corbin, I'm going to ask one more question. And the question is, as somebody that wants to start out in learning and development when I retire from the Air Force later this summer, what would be some pieces of advice you could give to me to get started?
I think just and I know I've talked to you on LinkedIn a little bit, and I think it's just continuing to make sure that people know that you are interested and try to find those opportunities, try to connect with them, try to network with them. And one of the biggest networking lies, I'll go ahead and answer this now, one of the biggest networking lies that I have found was hey, just collect enough contacts and eventually, like, make friends on LinkedIn. But it goes so much more than that, right? It's about actually creating that connection. And if you're interested in something, what I have found, especially if you can find veterans that are out there who are in a space that you want to be in, I would say, like, send them a note, connect with them, send them a note, tell them who you are, that you're a veteran, and start creating a relationship with them. And so that, like, if there's not a position on their team, they're at least willing to, like, hey, I know, like, I've had a conversation with this person, like, let me help them get into the space where they want to go.
Yeah,
does that answer your
absolutely.
question?
Yeah, no, I was surprised how many veterans. I live near Montgomery, Alabama, and there's a lot of veterans in the L&D world in this area. So I'm actually meeting with 2 different ones next week. So just to kind of pick their brain and see if I can get myself out there. But I appreciate that. Go ahead, Corbin.
Thank you. First, I just want to say, sir, thank you for coming today, and thank you also for taking that job at Goodfellow and going back to great San Angelo, Texas, where all of us intel officers in the Air Force start our career. As a leader, I've often heard, when you first come into an organization, take time and learn about the organization and learn why things are done the way they're done before you start making changes. So I guess my question is, how do you balance that with, you said when you came in, things were just haywire and way off the rails. And you see obvious things that need to be fixed, but you also kind of want to not just be changing things right off the bat. So that's like part one. And part two is, how do you not fall into the stereotype of being like that gruff military person that, is straight to the point and kind of, I don't want to say rough around the edges, but, direct, when coming from the military into a civilian world that is a little bit more soft and squishy in feelings. That's my 2 questions.
So so first, I love San Angelo. A big fan of Goodfellow. It's the most important mission that we have in the intelligence community, right? But
couldn't agree more.
To your question, I have always been like, if I show up to a new organization, like, I'm going to wait about 30 seconds before I start changing things, right? Like, I'm going to find out what needs to be changed, and we're going to do it. I learned, as I showed up to ISS, and I took over, the culture and belonging programs initially, and I was given those because the programs that I was taking over were either non-existent, were not in a good place, had not been in a good place, and my boss, she knew that I could kind of come in and solve it. And as I started to do that, I started to, like, okay, this is what I want to do. These are the changes I want to make. And what I realized is that I had 0 resources to do any of that. And so, in fact, like, about 3 months into the job, I was like, okay, I can create you a best-in-class program, but I need to hire somebody else to my team. And she's like, well, yeah, that's probably not going to happen for about another 6 months, because this was October, and I needed to wait until the new budget cycle kind of got through in the early January, February, March timeframe. So that was a challenge of, like, realizing that I couldn't just speed ahead. I could identify ways to make improvements. I could identify ways to make changes, but it wasn't just going to be the normal shift that probably all of us are experienced, and we have, when you walk into an organization and you see something that's not right, being able to just start to change things on day one. That wasn't necessarily the case. I would also tell you that the second part of your question, like, it's just about being kind, right? It's just about creating relationships and networks with the people that you're going to work with, whether it's in the military or whether it's in the corporate world. And when I showed up, your peer relationships really matter. The relationships with the people on your team really matter. And you can be direct all you want, but I can tell you, if you don't do it the right way, some of them has been at the, as I come in, I'm supervising people that have been at the company for 9 or 10 years. I've been there for one, right? And so being able to create those relationships and not do it in a way that is going to push people away, you need to do it in a way that's going to bring people closer to you.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
All right. I'm going to pick on Nick because he's raised his hand 3 times now. So go ahead, Nick.
But Jennifer's had hers up longer. She's been holding her hand up a lot longer. I've been getting rest. So let's let her go ahead. Go ahead, Jennifer.
All right, Jennifer goes first, then Nick. Go ahead.
Well, first, hi, Colonel Kulchar from Goodfellow. It's good to see you again.
You as well.
Yes, sorry. He was one of our commanders, so I know
Wait,
him
you
very
two
well.
know each other?
Yes, he was. That's why I was like, oh, hi, Colonel Culture. Small world.
Well,
Yes, very small.
that's a first here at Connections. Wow. Okay. Yeah, we're definitely going to be recording.
So
Yeah,
she'll be able to tell you if anything that I'm saying is doesn't represent me.
It's all true. It's all true, guys. It's all true.
Jennifer, I'm throwing an hour on your calendar after that. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Okay, good. Got it. No. I just want to say thank you first for coming on, because seeing somebody that I actually know and hearing from you is great. Obviously I knew you before when you were in the uniform, but tell me about the we're talking about transitions a lot, and I'm getting ready to retire. And so did you take time for yourself, and what did you do?
I did not. I know that's, as I was getting ready to transition, like, that's depending on who I talk to, they would say, oh, take 6 months, take 4 months, take time to yourself. I know myself well enough that I would have gotten incredibly bored. My wife would have been like, get out of the house. And for me, there was just, I knew that I was waiting for this job because, the woman that had become a mentor and friend had a position for me. If she would have said, hey, it's not going to be ready until September, October, I would have waited. But the fact that she was like, hey, can you start in 2 weeks? I was like, yep, I'll start. And so I started while I was on terminal. I think it really just depends on you, right? I think it depends on what opportunities that are thrown your way, and whether you're ready to jump into them before your terminal's over, or before that. If you've said, hey, I want to give myself 3 months, but then you get an opportunity. I think you know yourself well enough, or all of you, that I think you just got to do what's kind of best for you. And I don't know that answers your question well, but me, I was just ready for the next thing. I was ready to jump in. I was ready to have fun and learn something new.
Yeah, it's kind of like how I am. I'm ready for something different, obviously, than dental, because I've been doing it for 20 years. And it's National Dental Appreciation Week, guys. Appreciate your dental assistants. But just putting it out there. But I don't think that I can idle hands. I can't do idle hands. So I'm looking for something soon.
Awesome.
Good to see you.
It's good to see you.
All right, Nick. It's your turn.
Hey, yay. Oh, Jason, I really appreciate you coming on here and chatting with us. And I'm a huge Simon Sinek fan, and a lot of what you're saying kind of resonates with Simon Sinek's message. So I really, coming from you, that's awesome to hear that people are, instilling those values in companies. My question to you is, I am heavy into the AI space and, that realm of the world. And, there's already such a disconnect with the technology You touched on trust and like building trust with your teams and ensuring that they're, trusting you so that you're not, so they don't think you're just trying to get one over on them, but you're actually trying to do something that is going to empower them to be better for the team, right? So it's, how do you, with how this technology is advancing and people scared, and how do you navigate that in what you're doing today?
We all use it. We have to use it, and in fact, I just sent one of my L&D pros to get her AI certificate. I've got another one going in a couple weeks to get his AI certificate, and my boss already has kind of identified, like, hey, good. Once they get back, I know they're in L&D, but we probably need to leverage and utilize their experience and what they're learning and how to make changes across all of HR, or we call it people and culture. And so it's just what it is. Like, we need to be able to, and by leveraging the AI tools that we're starting to use, by leveraging that, what it does is it allows me to free up people on my team to go focus on other hard problems. And so I think it's just a necessity. Like, it's going to be a thing. And if you're not using it, I think you're behind.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was alluding to, is there's a lot of people that are fearful of it. And they may think like, oh, well, this is going to take my position. So, it's like, how are you using the change to, because people are, early adopters, late adopters, and the adoption phase and all that kind of stuff. But how do you, because like Amazon, they've laid off so many people and all these things. And how do you, I guess that's what I was trying to get, is how do you sell the message that it's for enablement, not to cut the team, if you will? That's kind of what I was.
So I think that, part of that is that we just have to continue to tell them as leaders, right? So I'm part of my boss's people and culture leadership team, and we have these conversations. And I think that you just have to be willing to be honest with your team, right? Like, she is a big believer and she says, like, we will not riff any of our employees. And we haven't, like, since I've been there in the last almost 2 years. So despite the fact that they rolled out new technologies, right? We've leveraged AI platforms and other aspects of our HR business, but we haven't cut people because of technology or new tools.
That's something that, the world that we play in, Jason, we're seeing AI just grow more and more and more and more in our domain, whether it be instructional design or AI improving the mapping of career progressions, or even, one-on-one coaching with things like that. And I will personally admit, I've been somewhat of a skeptic. Now I'm starting to sit there and see more of that progression. I will say Nicholas is one of the people that's kind of sold me on that. I do want to kind of backtrack a little bit and talk about going back to leadership and your book. And, you mentioned in your book, turning the right way. For someone who's in the middle of a stressful transition, and we got a bunch of people here that are really stressed out over trying to find an OJT opportunity while they're here. What does turning the right way look like when things feel like, the road's not going the way that they predicted or forecasted?
So for the context of the book, turning the right way is just doing the right thing, right? Like, as leaders, that you will be presented with impossible situations throughout, like you already have been throughout your years of that you've been serving. And when you move into the corporate world, the same thing. Like, you will be presented impossible situations. And in the book, I just talk about some of those situations that I had to deal with, and in both positive ways where I felt like they were dealt with correctly, and then I think in negative ways where they weren't, and what turned out when you don't maintain the course of just staying focused on doing the right thing. And we all know what the right thing is to do, and sometimes it's just really, really hard to do it, but you still got to have the strength to do it.
Love it. Megan?
Ooh, I got another good one. So your position that you're in right now is remote/hybrid. How did you make that transition from being a leader in a formation to now you're leading people over a computer screen?
I will tell you, I am a big time extrovert. So there are times when I struggle, but I love remote work. And partly it so for instance, I had to lock the door today on my office because my little dude got home from school, and the first thing he does is he comes into the office and starts waving at the screen to tell everybody hi, and then he's like, all right, where's your phone? I want to play a game. And so, like, for me, that's not something I ever had in 20 years, especially working in secure facilities where your family just can't walk in. And so, like, for me, I love that, to be able to have that time with my kids, being able to be like, you know what, like, I'm going to the gym today at 9:30.
Mhm.
And I can build my schedule around things that matter to me now, where I don't just have to be sitting in an office. And like I told you, like, I'm an extrovert, so uh, once a week I go. My 15-year-old she's homeschooled because she's in a dance conservatory full time, and so, like, on once a week, she and I will go to Starbucks. She'll do her schoolwork, and I'll sit there and do my meetings or do my work, and it's time that I get with her that I never had before. And once a week, I'll go sit at Barnes and Noble, and then my wife will. I get my fix of people and people watching, and my wife will drop off the little dude at school, and then she'll come over to Barnes and Noble and have coffee with me while I get work done, and she'll read a book. And so it's like, for me, I have just really enjoyed those moments and opportunities that I had never had before. So I think it matters how you look. I think it just goes back to, how do you look at it? And for me, even being an extrovert, like, I just look at it as the positives that I've never been able to do in my career before.
Yeah, no, that's a great way to look at it. When I first started SkillBridge, I really struggled. I was like, I'm at home all day, but I'm a single parent. And my kids were like, Mom, you're always here when we get home from school. Like, I love this. We get to see you more. And so that was like, yeah, definitely. I got to do something remote hybrid in the future. I can't get that time back with them. I got 6 years left with one of them and 9 years left with the other. So might as well soak it all in while I can.
That's right.
I want to kind of ask you a follow-up question on that, Jason. You obviously, you said extrovert, you go anywhere, do anything, you have sort of a hybrid mentality. What are some tips and tricks that you recommend for those here, you coming from secure facilities to doing what you're doing right now, that help you keep focused and help keep you on track to achieve what you're working on?
Yeah, I think my team, I think we've got a couple calls a week that we just get our entire team on, and we set on Mondays, right? We set hey, what's everybody doing? What are our priorities for the week? Here's what I'm tracking from my boss. All right, ready to go. And then midweek, like, I've got my leadership meeting on Wednesday mornings, and then Wednesday afternoons I have my team meeting, so I can share all of those things. We're all on camera, we're on video, and then I've got one-on-ones with every person on my team every week, just to give feedback, hear what they're doing, see where they need help. So there are plenty of opportunities to stay connected, either in a small team atmosphere or one-on-one with people on your team. We've got a bunch of employee resource groups. In one of them, we've got a veterans one. Most companies have veterans, employee resource groups. And so, like, we have a Microsoft team chat going that's just the veterans, where we'll stay connected. There's times we'll jump on a call together, we'll tell war stories, and it's all services. And so there's lots of ways to do that. And then we'll also maintaining the focus of, like, here are the things that I know my boss needs me to get done, and then I just use my calendar to track them. and I am a procrastinator, like all procrastinators can be. So like if I've got something due on Friday, like Wednesday, if I haven't got to it yet, I got to put a calendar invite on my calendar just for me for Wednesday evenings to be like, get this done tomorrow. Right. So
an L&D leader that's big on procrastination. No, I've never seen that before whatsoever. You sound like you're actually one of my former directors. I want to talk about real quick about education. You have multiple master's degrees, and as you're wearing the sweatshirt of the university where I'm getting my master's from, besides your military experience and obviously the camaraderie you had, Jennifer just backed you up on that, as well as sort of your professional. What was that give you more value, more ammunition, more tools in your chest to be successful, or was it just more of like help fill the gaps?
I think I'll be honest with you. My first master's degree was like help fill the gaps, right? They said, hey, you need to have a master's degree by X and X rank to be able to go do the thing. So I got one, right? The second one, the Air Force sent me to go get a master's degree. And neither of those master's degrees have anything to do with what I'm doing today. Or what I wanted to do in the future, to be honest. I will tell you, like, one of the most terrible piece of advice that I ever got in my career was early in my career when they were told, like, hey, if you're going to get a master's degree, make sure you get a master's degree tied to something that you're doing. Like, you're an intel officer, so get something that's like a master's degree tied towards that. And so like, that's what I did. Right. And I think that's what a lot of people did. If I could go back and do it all over again, like I would have got like a master's degree in management or leadership or in an MBA, because those are practical things that can take you from what you do every single day, and they're valued. It's not that my master's degrees are not valued. It's just, they didn't help me get the job I have today.
Okay. Love it. Thank you, sir. Nick, go ahead, brother.
Hey, appreciate you. So for someone like me, early in my transitioning out of the military into the private sector, I joined the military at 18, lived military for 20 years, and now I'm going into the real world, as they say. What would you suggest somebody like that to focus on learning and understanding first, getting out into the real world?
Let me make sure I understand your question. So after 20 years in the military, as you get ready to transition into the civilian world and corporate world, like what are the things that you can learn that will help your transition?
Yeah, or maybe unlearn too.
Yeah, I kind of shared it, right? I think as I went into so I'll give you a couple things. One is as I went into the civilian world and the corporate world, this might seem super simple, and I don't say it to joke, but like, we have a fiscal year of 1 October through 30 September in the military, where you get you have your money right away, right? So basically, early October, like you can start spending, and like how quickly can you spend all your money? In the corporate world, the fiscal year is 1 January through 31 December, and by the time you get to mid-year, right, like you're reevaluating the budget every time. By the time you get to mid-year, like travel might be turned off, spending money might be turned off, because there's different ways to look at like the money and the budget. It's March 6th. I still don't have a budget for this year. And so early on, I was able to get my boss to commit to a few things, but I still don't have my budget yet because there's some things happening in the company. So I'm just waiting to do that. So I think just in the military, like things can be very rigid, timelines, deadlines, budgets, all the things. And I think in the corporate world, I think you just have to be more flexible, and I've had to learn how to do that, if that makes sense.
That's the key to air power, right?
Yeah, except for you really don't have to do it in the military.
No, yeah. It's key to air power, flexibility.
But I think flexibility in the civilian world and the corporate world, and then just knowing that like you as leaders know how to do this. And I will tell you, like, this is like one of the superpowers that you can take into the civilian world is that you know how to advocate for, and you know how to, like, hey, this person on my team needs this training, or this person on my team is doing an amazing job, and I want to get this person on my team in front of my boss to show and advocate and all those things. Not all my peers know how to do that. And so, like, it is literally like taking candy from a baby at times, of just being able to get my people in front of my boss, of showing return on investment and value. And everything is about return on investment.
Who is that group I popped into today when I was this morning session and I said ROI, ROI? You just heard it from the man himself.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. Exactly. You don't have a budget. I just had a little minor aneurysm hearing that. You know,
So
we got a couple of minutes.
I'll give you a real quick example, right? So when I took over the L&D team, my boss didn't know all of the things that the L&D was doing, because the previous manager of the L&D wasn't a priority. And so when I came in, like, literally the very first thing that I did was set up quarterly calls with my boss, with only the learning and development team, so that they could give the CHRO an update on what they were doing and how they were impacting the business and the return on investment they were bringing. And it completely opened up her eyes, so that if we ever get to a point of, like, hey, we do have to riff, or we do have to make some significant changes in the business, guess what? Now my boss knows exactly what my team is doing, and she doesn't have that same level of understanding or visibility into other teams, and doesn't know their ROI, but she knows ours.
I love it. Yeah, ROI is something that definitely is a big thing here, particularly talking about, like, you know, resumes as well as interviewing, things like that, the hard skills that these guys are getting. And then how do you sit there and identify it later down the road? But we got a couple of minutes left, Jeff. So I want to kind of open it up to you. Any closing thoughts? Any, you know, things that you recommend for everyone that's here, all 102 of them? I mean, you know, I'm going to give you that time to sit there and give that really remarkable advice that you have to them.
So I just want to start. I'm noticing. So I saw one thing in the chat, right? And I want to capture this, right? And so Albert said, if you keep rewarding your top performers with more work, you're going to burn them out and pass on poor performers to their future leaders, and worse, their future subordinates. What I will tell you is that, and maybe this isn't every company, but I will tell you that poor performance and poor performers don't last long. We don't have time, and so you start performance plans. You start, hey, it's at that point, it doesn't become a riff; it becomes a performance. You know, they get fired for performance in the business, and I think that's the one thing that I appreciate about the corporate world, is that if you have people on your team, like, it's your responsibility to skill them up and get them where they need to be. And if you can't, then guess what? Like, it's another conversation about, okay, this person is not right for the team. I need to be able to bring somebody in who can operate at a high level, and not just be a low level performer.
I love that. I love that. Jason, from the bottom of my heart, it was great to connect with you and bring that wisdom and insight to the table. You saw in the chat that I've been dropping the link in the book. Don't be surprised you sit there like, oh, all of a sudden I got a couple of 100 books sitting there flying off the shelves from Amazon because everyone started ordering it. But thank you. It was an absolute pleasure having you here today. I'll be circling back up with you shortly, but absolutely fantastic. Thank you for your wisdom and insight, sir. And first time I've ever had a former officer actually have one of their subordinates here at the session. So mind blowing for me. So thank you, sir.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. And please, if you have questions, connect with me on LinkedIn. Happy to share anything that you need. And I will tell you, the last thing I'll tell you is that I was told early in my career as I was getting ready to make the decision on whether I was going to retire or not, somebody told me, like, if I would have known retirement was as good as it was, I would have retired way sooner. And I can tell you that is 100% true. I love the Air Force. I love what I got to do, but I wouldn't trade where I'm at today for anything. So best of luck to all of you. And if there's anything I can do for you, just reach out.